Every lie begins small. So small, in fact, that you barely notice it leaving your lips. A slight bend of the truth here. A detail left out there. A story told just a little differently than it actually happened. But here is what nobody tells you. A lie does not stay the size it was born. It grows. It feeds on the next lie you tell to protect it, and the one after that, and the one after that, until one day, you look around and realize you are living inside a world you built with false walls. Today's story is about a man who was trusted by everyone around him. A man whose word was once worth more than any written agreement. And how one small lie, told on an ordinary afternoon, quietly unraveled everything he had spent a lifetime building. Stay with this story until the very end. Because the lesson it carries is one that every one of us needs to hear. In a busy trading town near the river, there lived two friends who had grown up together since childhood. Their names were Roger and Dev. They had shared the same school bench, eaten from the same lunchbox on hungry afternoons, and stood beside each other at their own weddings. If you saw one, you expected the other was not far behind. Roger was a cloth merchant with a small but respected shop in the town market. He was not wealthy, but he was known for one thing above all else: his honesty. If a piece of fabric was slightly faded, Roger would tell you before you even asked. If his price was firm, he said so without apology. If he promised to deliver by Thursday, he was there Wednesday evening. People traveled from neighboring villages not just for his cloth, but for the certainty of dealing with him. His word, they said, was a sealed contract. Dev, on the other hand, worked as a grain trader. A warm man, generous with his laughter, beloved at every gathering. But Dev carried a habit that had followed him quietly from childhood. He found it easier to tell people what they wanted to hear. Not in a cruel way. Not with malice. He simply disliked conflict. He disliked disappointing people. And so, whenever the truth felt uncomfortable, he softened it. Bent it slightly. Wrapped it in a friendlier shape. He never thought of it as lying. He called it being considerate. One season, when the rains arrived late and the harvest was thin, Roger's cloth business slowed almost to a stop. People were spending carefully. Luxuries could wait. A large merchant from the city had placed an order with Roger months earlier, a significant one, worth more than 3 months of normal business. Roger had promised delivery of 500 meters of fine cotton by the 1st of the month. But when Roger went to his supplier, the stock was short. He could only gather 350 meters of the quality he had promised. The rest would take another 2 weeks. Worried, Roger went to Dev. "Brother," he said, "you know everyone in the trading community. Do you know if this city merchant is flexible? Will he accept a partial delivery with a clear explanation?" Dev nodded thoughtfully. He had met the merchant once at a regional fair, briefly, barely more than a handshake and a shared cup of tea. But Dev did not want to disappoint his oldest friend. He did not want Roger to worry more than he already was. So Dev said, "I know him well. He is a reasonable man. Go to him, explain everything honestly, he will understand. I give you my word." Roger trusted Dev the way a man trusts his own shadow. He packed the 350 meters, traveled to the city, and stood before the merchant with complete honesty. The merchant was not a reasonable man. He was a hard businessman with contractual penalties written in ink. He refused the partial delivery, cancelled the full order, and fined Roger for the breach. Roger returned home with the cloth still in his cart and a loss that took his breath away. He said nothing to Dev. He assumed he had simply misread the situation. He absorbed the blow quietly and began rebuilding. A year passed. Then, a community savings group in the town was forming, a trusted circle of traders who would pool money for emergencies and opportunities. They needed a treasurer. Someone of unquestioned character. Both Roger's and Dev's names were put forward. At the selection meeting, one of the senior traders asked Dev directly, "Tell me honestly, do you have any experience managing shared funds?" Dev had once been given charge of a small festival collection pool several years ago. He had managed it carelessly, not dishonestly, but without record keeping, without structure. Two members had never received their full contributions back, though Dave had genuinely forgotten, not stolen. He could have shared this. He could have said, I had one experience that did not go perfectly, and here is what I learned. Instead, Dave smiled warmly and said, yes, I have handled such funds before. It went very smoothly. He was elected treasurer. Within 8 months, the record-keeping had fallen apart. Members could not verify their contributions. Disputes broke out. The group collapsed. And when the senior traders investigated, the old festival incident surfaced. Dave's earlier words at the selection meeting surfaced alongside it. The community did not call him a thief. But they called him something that cut deeper. They called him someone whose word could not be trusted. Roger had everything. For the first time in their long friendship, he sat quietly and let the memories surface. The city merchant. Dave's confident assurance. The loss that had followed. He went to Dave's house that evening. He did not shout. He did not accuse. He simply asked, brother, did you truly know that merchant as well as you said you did? Dave looked at his oldest friend for a long moment. And for the first time in many years, the lie had nowhere left to go. No, Dave said quietly. I had met him once. I just did not want you to worry. The silence between them was heavier than any argument. Do you understand, Roger said slowly, that one sentence, spoken to protect me from worry for one afternoon, cost me a year of rebuilding? Dave had no answer. Roger stood and placed his hand on Dave's shoulder. Not in anger, but with the weight of truth. I have never needed comfortable words from you, brother. I have only ever needed true ones. A small lie feels like mercy at the moment it is spoken. But it is a debt. And the interest it collects from people we love. He paused at the door. The world can forgive a man who makes mistakes. It rarely forgives a man who hides them. Be truthful, even when the truth is plain and unglamorous. That is the only way your words will ever mean anything again. Dave sat alone that night for a very long time. He thought about every softened truth, every comfortable answer, every small bend in honesty he had offered over the years, always thinking he was protecting someone. Always discovering, too late, that he was only protecting himself from an uncomfortable moment. He thought about the traders who could no longer look him in the eye. He thought about the year Roger had spent quietly recovering from a loss Dave had a part in causing. He thought about his own name, and what it now meant to those who had it. The next morning, Dave went to each member of the savings group personally. He brought his own records, his own money where gaps remained, and a simple, undecorated admission. I told you I was prepared for this responsibility. I was not. I am sorry. Some people accepted it. Some did not. But something shifted in Dave's own chest. For the first time in years, his words matched his reality. That small alignment, truth meeting speech, felt like setting down something he had been carrying so long he had forgotten its weight. Trust, once it cracks, does not heal the way broken bones do, stronger at the fracture. It heals slowly, like old plaster, only if the wall underneath is finally made solid. Dave spent the next 2 years rebuilding his name the only way a name can be rebuilt. One honest conversation at a time. He stopped offering people what they wanted to hear. He started offering them what was real. And slowly, the people around him began to sense the difference. There is an old saying, the truth needs no memory. A lie, however small, demands a larger one to protect it. And then another. And another still. Until the man speaking can no longer remember what was real. Dave had lived that exhaustion for years without knowing its source. Honesty gave him something no comfortable word ever had. Rest. Dear ones, most of us are not dishonest people. We do not set out to deceive. But we bend the truth to avoid discomfort. We omit details to keep the peace. We say it's fine when it is not. We say, I handle it, when we know we are already overwhelmed. And every small bend quietly becomes a wall between us and the people who trust us most. The life we live is made of our words as much as our actions. When those two things stop matching, everything begins, slowly and silently, to fall apart. You do not need to be brutal to be honest. You need only be real. Real about what you know, and what you do not. Real about what you can do, and what you cannot. Real about where you failed, and what you intend to do about it. That is the kind of person others build their trust on. And trust, once genuinely earned, is the only foundation that does not crack when the storms arrive. So carry this question with you today. Is there a small lie in your life, perhaps one you have told so many times you no longer see it as one, that is quietly collecting a debt from someone you love? And what would it cost you, truly, to replace it with something real? Speak the truth, gently if you must, but always. Because small lies do not stay small. And big lives cannot be built on them. Never forget, 1. A single lie destroys a lifetime of trust. 2. The truth needs no memory, but a lie needs 1,000.3. Honesty is not cruelty. It is the deepest form of respect. And 4. The strongest bridge between two people is always the truth. Build your life, your friendships, and your name on what is real. Because what is real is the only thing that lasts.